Gemini, welcome to your August 2017 Astro Update. It's Rena here. Well, so far I've done most of the other signs, and I keep saying the same thing, which is that there's a lot of concentration in the sign of Leo. And so this is going to affect a particular house for every sign. For you, it's the third house of communication. And that happens to be the house that you rule. So I would say that this makes it particularly auspicious for Geminis because having that concentration of energy in the house that you rule means that all of the things that the third house represents are things that you naturally are about. So the third house, communications. The internet, of course, is the major thing. Any kind of teaching, any kind of writing, that's a form of communication. Being a YouTuber, being a blogger, vlogger. What else? Public speaking. Having a podcast. So whatever, those kinds of things are up your alley and they are emphasized here. And there's going to be a new moon, which is solar eclipse, that's happening on the 21st. And so it's bringing in all these opportunities for the very thing that you represent. And basically what I think this means, because the other exciting thing, and this is kind of the kicker, is that the North Node is in Leo, in that third house for the next 18 months. So you couple a new moon, which happens to be a really powerful new moon in the form of a solar eclipse, the second new moon in this sector in a month, and then you add the North Node in the same house. And it's just like destiny for you to do one of those things that I just mentioned. So it's going to be a rare Gemini person that doesn't fantasize about being a writer, I would say. Whether it's a journalist or whether it's a novelist, whether it's somebody, maybe, a YouTuber, maybe a public speaker, but you want to share your ideas. Or maybe even a teacher. During this particular month, and also you could say by extension for the next year and a half, this is something that you should really try to make happen if that resonates with you, because when the North Node is involved, that means that it's like the universe is really has your back when it comes to accomplishing this goal. And actually, anything involving the North Node, whether it's the transiting North Node or whether it's in your own chart, is not just a simple goal, like a career goal, but it's your soul's mission. It's what you came here to do. And it can transcend career. It's like a part of your being. And it's like when you're doing this particular thing, you feel fulfilled. And conversely, when you're not doing this thing, you may feel like something's missing. It's funny. I have my North Node in Gemini. And so doing this is fulfilling my soul's mission, communicating in some fashion. So I may not have ever entertained the notion of it until just recently. But it doesn't matter. It finds you, and you may have similar things happening to you, and you need to kind of exercise them in whatever way feels right for you. Now, let me talk about some of these other things that are happening. The sun is going to be in Cancer, in Leo most of the month, and then it goes into Virgo on the 22nd. And Virgo is your fourth house of home and family. And for Gemini people, home and family it can be like a loaded issue for some people because you are your own people. So you're not the kind of person to just naturally belong to this big group and think like they think. And you may be the free spirit of the family, so to speak. And so when you deal with family, it can go either way, possibly. And this is going to be true for all air signs like Gemini and fire signs as well, because we tend to be, I'm a Sagittarian, a fire sign, we are masculine signs, and we tend to be very much concerned with the outer world, not the inner world of a family. So that can sometimes feel very confining, and therefore there can be conflict within you when you're dealing with family because you feel like you have to conform to something and maybe even act in ways that are not really how you truly are. So there could be some kind of like going back, dealing with family, having to communicate, and this may be from an issue that occurred before. This could also be a real estate matter, the fourth house. So perhaps you were going to buy or sell a house and you had to deal with some kind of documents. Remember that when Mercury goes retrograde, it's not a great time to sign documents. So if there's some review, definitely keep that in the front of your mind, and also realize that Mercury will go direct on September 5th. And when it does go direct, it's actually going to be in Leo. So it starts in Virgo, goes back to Leo, and that's your third house of your, your natural house. By the way, the third house, in addition to being communication, is dealing with your siblings and other extended family members, and also dealing with your local area. So I should have said, too, that in addition to possibly doing some kind of communication like writing, that some of you may decide to maybe run for local office, something where you are connecting yourself to your community in a bigger way. Or it could have some new beginnings with siblings with that solar eclipse. But, I can see here with this particular Mercury retrograde that it's hitting both of these houses that connect to family members. So that's why I say you may have some kind of family business. And I'm just kind of giving you the heads up so that you can be prepared to deal with it as best you can, because Mars is going to be in Leo all month long in that third house. So hopefully you're not going to war with siblings over something. For instance, if there was some kind of, estate issue, that maybe that's what that Mercury retrograde is all about. Or even like your parents signing the home over to the children or one of the children, and you're all kind of like going at it because you're mad that one of the siblings got control of the estate, or the trust got a trust. That would be unfortunate if you were fighting with siblings. If you feel like aggressive, because with Mars in the third house, you may feel even like starting something with siblings. It could be aunts and uncles, I think. I'm trying to remember. I think it's cousins. I don't know if it's aunts and uncles. I thought the uncles were the sixth house, but who knows? Anyway, you could be having some kind of conflict. And just remember that if it's involving something to do with money or property, that you don't want to do something like that, because it's really beneath you. And yet sometimes you have to deal with things that are rather unpleasant, and there might be something unfair going on that has to be resolved. But you don't have to be the aggressor, and Mars can make you that aggressor if you're not conscious of it and kind of make sure not to come across too aggressively. So Venus is in Leo. Venus goes into Leo on the 26th. So Mars is there all month. Venus goes there on the 26th. And that means that Venus will soothe or smooth over any ruffled feathers that have to do with any conflicts with siblings. It can also bring money. You could be toiling away at something involving a website or a blog that you are, maybe a YouTube channel, really getting all your ducks in a row, wanting to launch, and Venus comes in and you're making money from this thing. Now, again, in terms of launching, it's better to either launch before the 12th or after the 5th of September. But, some people will defy the odds. You are ruled by Mercury. You might say, hey, Mercury, bring it. I have what it takes. I'm not afraid of you, and I'm going to launch smack dab in the middle of a Mercury retrograde. I was thinking of that line of Jumpin' Jack Flash, cross-eyed hurricane. That's what I think of a Mercury retrograde. So let me talk about this lunar eclipse, because this is in a fellow air sign in Aquarius, and this is happening on the 7th. So lunar eclipses, very powerful full moons. What are full moons? Full moons are times of things coming to fruition, things coming to light, in whatever area that this is occurring, or things coming to an end. So it is said that the lunar eclipse is more of the endings, and I am not so sure about that, because I don't think that if it is an ending, it may be just a particular theme, so to speak, but it may not be the whole enchilada. So let's look at what it would be for your house. You have this eclipse in the 9th house, which is Sagittarius' natural house, the house that you oppose naturally. And this is the house of the higher mind. So it's higher education. It is the higher thoughts that come from religious institutions and philosophical frameworks. It is the house of foreign travel. So you are the house, the opposite house of local areas, and the 9th house is the house of foreign travel. And so this is a form of expansiveness. Jupiter rules the 9th house, so it's all about expansion. And a full moon in this house, I could see somebody who, I think it can be like a tsunami effect, where it just is like bringing something in that maybe was held back for a long time. And because it's in the 9th house, it could be related to, let's say you published a novel, self-published a novel a year ago, and you've had maybe just here and there a couple of sales, and then all of a sudden it goes viral. Because that awareness, it comes into the awareness of others. It's like the full moon is a time of great light. And so it shines a spotlight on something, in this case, your publication, or maybe you're ending a trip and something occurs that is almost like a spiritual experience based upon your travels, that you really gain something far greater than just visiting certain tourist spots. And this is like, it's like an aha moment, so to speak. So this can occur in different ways, but this is a very expansive full moon for you, being the 9th house. And I keep saying full moon, I should say lunar eclipse. It could be a time when if you are, if you're like in a certain academic position, you know, there's always a possibility, okay, you're cut, your position is cut. But what I want you to remember is that one door opens, one door closes, another opens. If that is the case, the new moon in Leo, which is happening on August 21st, is in that third house. So here's an example of how this could play out. Let's take that example. Let's say it is an ending where you have maybe you're not a tenured professor. Let's say you're an adjunct. And so you get your position cut. And then all of a sudden your book that you were writing, that takes off. The third house, it could be some kind of a writing project or some kind of a thing. Or you get hired as a lecturer in a different vein. Maybe it's not at a university. Maybe it's working in a museum or something like that, because you have this academic background and you have the ability to communicate already. And so you just move on to something, and it will be far greater because it may be closer to what you wanted in the first place, and maybe it will give you more autonomy. There's so many different things that could happen. So a lot of times people go, oh my God, what if it's an ending? And what if it's something that it's my career or something like that, and not thinking that it could be something so much better ultimately. So Gemini, I'm going to leave it there. It seems like this is going to be a really good month for you and maybe a turning point, because it seems like everything is lined up for you really doing what you came here to do, and that's awesome. So I hope you enjoyed this, and if you'd like a private reading, I'm offering my natal chart interpretations on sale, and they are an hour long, and you might, if you're watching, and I keep forgetting to say this is for Gemini Sun and Gemini Rising, but if you're a Gemini Sun sign, this is not talking about your, this is just for your solar chart. This is not the natal chart. And the natal chart, you could have a different rising sign totally. It could be anything. So all of these transits that I'm talking about, they may hit other houses. And of course, this is a generalized reading, and depending on what your different degrees of your sun or rising, that will affect things as well. So if you're interested in that, there's a link below. It takes you to rainandmoonastrology.com. Otherwise, have an amazing August. Bye.